is when parents do.
Hi, Sonia. Welcome to the Discovery of an Author. We are thrilled to have you here with us today.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So yeah, are you ready to jump in?
Yes, absolutely. Ready and waiting.
All right. So, would you like to start with telling us about yourself? You can be as descriptive as you wish to be.
Okay, so this is like a life story, really.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll talk about myself and my background in relation to my writing
Mhm.
and to the books that I do, because that is the part that's relevant over here. And also a part a little bit about, what drove me here and how I ended up here doing what I love to do. So basically, I grew up in an army background. My father was in the army. So we traveled, I think by the time I was in the 11th standard, I had changed 8 or 9 schools. So that literally gave me a fairly diverse kind of, exposure to things. Uh, Also, and maybe we'll touch on this later, life was very different then, not just my environment, but also the period, because this was like 60 years ago. So you could imagine how different things were as opposed to the way they are now. But at some stage, when my father retired, we came and moved to Bombay, and he retired and lived in Bombay. I went to college, did my last years of college in Bombay, and then I started because I always loved reading and I loved the language. Really, I loved. Of course, I went through the, as they call it, the rite of passage, Enid Blyton, Nancy Drew. Also, because we used to spend a lot of time on trains, we used to read a lot. There was nothing to do on a train for a 48-hour journey. So we would read a lot, me and my brother. And so we sort of, when I finished my college, I said, what do I want to do? I want to do something with words, with writing. I had a really good friend who was a journalist. So it was like something I wanted to try out. So I started writing articles and I joined a journalism agency called Sol Features, where we did, and this is straight out of college, but I did articles, what I called investigative journalism in those days. But for example, I did one really interesting article for a magazine called Society, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was really big at that time, on this obsession with a male heir, having a male boy, and how parents and young couples, what they were doing to ensure that they got a boy, which was very objectionable to me at that time and even now. So there was a whole article I did on that as to what are the kind of things that people do. So those kind of articles, I did an article on what is the source of time. When you say it's 6 o'clock exactly over here, how do you know it's 6 o'clock? So I went to observatories and so different kinds of articles, but it was always to do with the written word. That was around when I got married, and then I had my kids, and I obviously took a break from a full-time job at that time because it was just too much to manage. But luckily, because A, I was in the space of writing, and B, I got married to a person who didn't want to let me give up on what I was good at. So my husband, with whom I went on to eventually, which we run today, start a company along with him. But he was in advertising. My husband, Dushyant, his name is. And so he kind of always told me that, look, you're very lucky that you are a writer. So it doesn't matter that you can't go to a full time job because of the children, but you can always write from home. So I moved into a freelance journalism kind of a role. And then, when my kids were a little older, I joined a magazine, and I worked with a magazine called Business India as well as Inside Outside. And I did my whole journalism drill of every kind of article. That was when, as the children grew up and I got a little more time, my husband and I decided he also wanted to move out of advertising and strike out on our own. So we started our own company. uh, as we grew in that company, we gravitated towards content. And well, that part is, I don't know how interesting it is to listeners and viewers, but we also started a company in partnership with somebody, which was to do with publishing and books, but it was a printing company that went public. Uh, that was called Repro India. Then we moved into further into content, and that was around the time that we got in touch with publishers. So that's where the interesting part is, and we got acquainted and got to know publishers around the world. We started attending book fairs like the Frankfurt Book Fair, the Bologna Book Fair, of course the New Delhi World Book Fair, and we met more and more publishers and realized that we really had the content, the skills and the abilities to create content for books. And we set up a company called Quadrum, which we run even today, in which we create content for publishers, but in the children's space. So we actually have a large team of writers, editors, designers, illustrators, etc. And we actually create books like pre-primary programs, like reader programs, supplementary educational books. But our focus is always from the age 3 to age 10 approximately. Now, on a personal level, what happened around then is that my children grew up and got married, and then I have grandchildren now. So what happened is that I remained in the space of children, you know. So that was around the time I started writing. We were always in Quadrum. We created books, but that was not under my own name. That was in the Quadrum name. But when I had grandchildren and I found myself telling more stories to them, and spending more and more time with today's child, because my children are grown up by then, I started writing books myself. And so that personal journey of writing is what started maybe about 8 years back, 10 years back. Although one has been in the publishing space for the last many, many years, but writing under my own name has been about 7, 8 years, I would say. So that's what brought me to today. So that's like, very big nutshell about me.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you will say your kids and your grandkids are kind of the source of, or your kids are the actual original source of inspiration that kind of pushed you into writing for
Yeah,
children's,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
books. Okay.
Something I forgot to mention, that when my children were small, my husband and I, the company that we were running,
Hmm.
we created one of India's first children's newspapers. For the
Amazing. Whoa. Okay.
Saturday, it used to come out on Saturday.
Uh-huh.
It was which newspaper was that? But it was a Saturday news supplement for children, and we also brought the Bourn-Vita quiz contest, which used to be a radio program. We brought it onto television.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so that was a
Because I
really.
remember watching it when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It became very popular.
Yeah.
So we went to Cadbury because it was a Bournvita thing and said that, look,
Yeah.
when we were children, Bournvita quiz contest was very big on the radio.
Hmm.
It used to be conducted by Hamid Sayani, Amin Sayani's brother. And we all grew up listening to that. But by the time, then there was no television in those days. So when television came about, we went to Cadbury and said that, listen, why don't you consider the idea of moving this as a TV program? So they liked the idea. So we created the whole thing. We conceptualized it. We hired people like Derek O'Brien to be the host, and we worked with different schools. We got them to shoot. It was a whole production that we did. So that was another part of our exposure and connect to kids.
Hmm.
So the connection to children and learning and books for children has been very deep and very long now, for us individually and as a company.
Sounds wonderful. Like the newspaper bit is also so interesting because like newspaper is supposed to be something which is specifically for the adults, and like to actually have something for the kids, and you to get involved in that and to get engaged in that kind of media can be like really
Yeah.
really wonderful. Yeah.
It was a good period.
So, Sonia, you are from an army background. You come from an army background. How do you think it molded you as a person and as an author?
Okay. So as a person, I would say that, what happens is that you experience a completely different way of life than what people do in the civilian world, as we called it in those days, and which it is still. But we were sort of very conscious that we had a different way of life, because we would meet cousins every holiday. We would meet cousins and see their way of life, which was very stable and settled, and the same thing. They had the same way of life all their lives. Whereas for us, every time it was a new school, so learning to make new friends, that gave us a ability, I feel, to because he would get transferred every 2 to 3 years. So every 2 to 3 years, we were in a new school, and you had to make friends from scratch. So it gave us a sort of a confidence, I think, and also an ability to connect and to uh, sort of not become complacent about who we were. There was nothing attached to you. You had no baggage every time you were starting afresh. So there was no baggage. There was no whose kids are you, or nobody knew anything about you. So you had to start from scratch. It was also, it made you feel a little vulnerable for sure, because every time you're going to a new school, there are already some set friendships. So I do remember going through this little bit of feeling a little scared in the beginning on the first few days. But, there was greater acceptance, I think, in that era, not only because of the army, but even in that era, there was a greater acceptance of that this is what you have to do, so you have to do it. There was no questioning. I'm seeing that is changing very drastically because there's so much choice. So children are getting a lot of choice, youngsters are getting so much choice. So along with that choice also comes a sort of a responsibility and a almost a burden of choice.
Yes.
Because you feel that if I choose this, what if it goes wrong? Whereas in my time, in our time, when we were kids, there was no choice. So you just did it. There was no question of telling my parents that I don't want to do this, because there was no choice. So you kind of you went with the flow, you accepted it, and we dealt with it. So I think personally, I think that was something which was uh, helped mold us as characters in terms of our personalities, in terms of our strength of character. Also, I feel, you know, in terms of writing, it's very interesting because one of the first series that I did under my own name was the Discover India series, which is actually got a book on every state of India and every union territory as well. In fact, I have a book right
We
here.
have it here with us also.
Also have it there. There you.
Yeah.
So it was I because so now if you put all the pieces together, by this time we had got deeply entrenched into children's publishing in any case, and plus I had children and I have grandchildren, and so I was in that space even on a personal level, and I could see that there was very little information about apart from what is already being taught in schools, etc., about India, and very little was being told like a narrative.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all what you mug up, what you learn in school, and there's sort of a preconceived. Whereas, having lived in different parts of India, I mean, I've lived in the Northeast, we were in Shillong, we were in Meghalaya, we were in the South, we were in Jhansi, in places like Babina that nobody's even heard of. So we experienced culture from different places. Um, like I remember in our house in Shillong, all the houses are built on stilts because of earthquakes.
Yeah.
So I remember one day my brother and I came back from school, and we opened the door to our room, and found there was grass there because there had been a dead rat. So they had taken out the floorboards,
Okay.
and it's about 2 feet high, and a house, the floor, there was no floor, but it was that quick to take it out and put it on again. It was all built of wood because that area was prone to earthquakes. So now this is a piece of information that children will never know. So that sort of made one think that, let's do a series which is a story of every state. So Maharashtra has got its own history, its own geography, and its own culture, and its own language, and its own food, its own people, and its own fun facts. So does Meghalaya, so does Andhra Pradesh, so does Kashmir, etc. So we did this series. I wrote that was the first one of the first series I did with Penguin Puffin. In fact, and when I think back, I suppose the fact that I lived all over India made me feel like I've got to share whatever little I have experienced. And then as I wrote that series, I realized that I also know like 5 or 3% of the information. But it was also very interesting because I've created, because I do a lot of school readings and workshops and all. So we've created this thing called the Discover India Housey and the Story of India. So in the Story of India, it is technically the history, but
Mhm.
we started with saying that, do you know, like, what language do people speak in Germany? They speak German. What do they speak in France? They speak French. What do we speak in India? And suddenly, what food do we,
Yes,
how many costumes do you have? So
right.
we all know India is diverse. Everybody says that, celebrating diversity, unity in diversity, all these slogans we hear. But why is it so? So then I've created this whole story in which you talk about how the world discovered India, came to trade with India, and then stayed there for sometimes 500 years. And when they went back, the Europeans, the Dutch, the Italians, the French, the Portuguese,
Portuguese, yeah.
British, of course, the
Mm.
Mughals, Persians, all
Mm.
of these came, they stayed in India for a significant period of time and left their culture behind. They left their food behind. They left their habits behind. They intermarried. So, they left their faith behind. So, that is what helps to sort of put India together like a jigsaw puzzle, and you understand why India is so diverse.
Yeah.
So, that is what something that I find, and I feel very happy when I get feedback from children and from teachers as well. That, they're very happy that there is a series like this because it gets children to experience different parts of India in a way that they've not before. So,
Listening to you just speak is like actually making me so excited because I wish we had something like this when we were growing up. Because you try to explore other countries, and there are so many things to know about. But I think even as an Indian, we don't really know that much about our own country. There are like so many interesting things happening. Like there are so many cultures, so many languages, food, as you are telling, and like it has been merged with other cultures in other countries as well. Like that is so interesting. It kind of makes me feel like I wish I was a child and I could again pick up all those books, which I think I'm definitely going to again.
I'll tell you something that
Yeah.
this is, while it is for children,
Yeah.
basically I found that, and I find that even today,
Mm.
um, adults can also learn from it because
Yeah.
we all as adults also know very little. It's not
Mm.
possible also not to know everything about everything.
Mm.
So, and nor does this series claim to be everything about everything, but it certainly goes deeper than what many other books and series have,
Yeah.
and in a manner that has not been done.
Hmm.
So,
Definitely. And you have to start at some point because if you don't know a certain thing exists, you cannot even research about it. But it's so wonderful that such books exist now because of like wonderful writers like you in this space, and kids can actually pick it up, and even the adults can pick it up, and they can then do their own research also. As we have discussed, you have like written so many wonderful series like Discover India, Sleepy Tales, Book of Values, etc. What is your thought process or motivation before starting a new project or a new book or a series? Like, how do you decide upon a subject?
okay. So, I think what happens is, because, as I said earlier, one is because I have grandchildren. So I stay very closely in touch with them and with what their life stage is. Okay. So, what are their challenges? What are the challenges of their parents? What are they reading just now? What are what are they going through? uh, as they grow. So, for example, and again, going back for a second about, uh, because I think you had mentioned this earlier, that when we brought up our children, and and also when we brought up our children, I would say life was kind of simpler because, as I said earlier, there there were no choices. Okay. Today, because there's excess of choice and excess of information, so much choice, that I find that parenting is also hard. And in some sense, childhood has also become harder.
Mm.
Because there are, when I say harder, I don't mean harder in a tough way.
Mm.
Because in many ways, they have it far easier than we had it.
Yes.
What I mean is, it's a little more complex.
Mm.
It's not simple. It's less simple. So, you said that where do I get ideas from? So, by seeing what they are going through. So, for example, one of the big issues of today's parenting journey is this obsession with screens. This, and we hear it everywhere. You hear it through doctors, through wellness coaches, through articles on TV and etc. That reduce your screen time. Now, parents are only so into the screen,
Mm.
children will obviously get so. The other issue that they face because of this excess of everything is boredom. Like, children are not given this time to just be. And when I say not given, means the parents would want what is best only for their child, but in their, because of this peer pressure, this excess information, you feel, oh, I don't want my child to miss out. So every minute is packed with activities.
Mm.
Teach them cycling, teach them skating, teach them swimming, teach them piano, teach them karate. So every child has to learn everything.
Mm.
So there's no time to be bored. Okay. Uh, there's too much of everything.
Mm.
So there's less value in everything. So when I see all this, no, that's what triggers some thoughts. And then, like this one series that I've done, it's called, it's for millennial parents. So, like, for example, this one is screen time drama.
Okay.
Reading ulta for you.
No, no, it's completely fine. Yeah, yeah.
So, like, this is screen time drama. These two
Yes.
penguins called Pebbles and Pogo,
Mm-hmm.
and they, when they want screen time, they want screen time.
Mm.
Therefore, the whole story is about how they go through it, and then then there are some tips and tricks for parents at the end.
Mm.
Which this, in fact, I did along with my daughter because she actually goes through this.
Mm.
So there are like tips and tricks at the end. So this is one. Then another one is food,
Mm.
junk food. So this is, they become icky picky eaters. So how they're, the importance of eating
Yeah.
properly. So we've created this, what we call the peppy plate, which sort of tells them that how they need to balance their food.
Yeah.
They need to have proteins, this, that, etc. So this comes directly from what I see the children going through.
Mm.
Another one, which is, which I've done with the third set, is just out. It's called Dealing with Feelings.
Yes.
So what happens in this is that the children, again, as a fallout of the world around us, the children are going through a lot of issues like anxiety,
Mm.
which I suppose we also went through, but we just lumped it. But today, what happens? There are counselors and there are, parenting advisors who tell them that, oh, your child is going through anxiety, or your child is going through depression, or your child is having anger issues.
Mm.
These are all real things, and children are going to face it.
Mm.
So I created this series of books with Puffin again, which is like, for example, uh, there's no need to feel guilty. Guilt is something. It's okay to be left out. Children have this thing that, my friends are doing this, but I didn't
Mm.
include me. Then being cranky is no fun. It's okay not to come first. This competitiveness, so books like this and the other books in the series which talk about anger, talk about being confused,
Mm.
sad, etc. So these are dealing with feelings. Again, something that was born of the observation of what is happening around us, in
Mm.
what parents are challenged with and what children are dealing with. Once more, I'll say that these things are not new.
Mm.
It's just that the attention on them has become so much more that it's creating a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So these books are a fun sort of way to help the parents navigate this with their
Mm.
children. So, reading a fun story to them, then you're not giving them gyan, you're not being preachy to them. You're
Yes.
reading a story and helping,
Because
letting.
children tend to listen to others more than their own parents. So yeah, if it comes from a book, I think that's the
Yeah. You listen to a story and
yeah.
learn through that story. It's not
Mm.
about you, it's about that character. So,
Yeah.
but children do take away things.
Mm.
So
The
that
point that you mentioned, that the modern life is so much more easier than what we like what it was like maybe 30 years back, 40 years back, 50 years back, but somehow it has become much more challenging in the sense that you were saying like there is more pressure. There's this standing joke between me and like my friends and I, that even if we open an app like Zomato, and if you want to order something, you like immediately get bombarded with so many options that you end up actually choosing the one that you always do, because like there's so many things. Become easier as in we have more facilities, but somehow it has become more taxing mentally.
correct.
So yeah.
Absolutely right. And this is something which is as they say, going to be an increasing challenge for children because
Mhm.
what one of the things is that, this concept of instant gratification is
Yes.
happening in children, in adults. If your computer doesn't open immediately or you lose connectivity for 3 seconds, you get impatient.
Mhm.
If your Swiggy order or your Zomato order doesn't come in that prescribed time, you get impatient.
Mhm.
Or children will say, I want this, and you quickly order it on Zomato. So they think that sab kuch, I'll get everything whenever I
Yeah.
want. So that concept of instant gratification is leading to, I feel, what they call attention deficit.
Mhm.
Means the lack of, there's no staying power.
Mhm.
So they don't have the patience. So, and that reflects in attitudes, it reflects in your in relationships,
Mhm.
just becomes a way of life because you become impatient as a person. You
Mhm.
want immediate solutions, to everything.
Mhm.
So, what started out as a convenience
Mhm.
has got, I feel, emotional repercussions,
Mhm.
which we are already seeing,
Yeah.
which potentially can become much more.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your process of writing children's books?
Okay, so see, as I told you in Quadrum,
Mhm.
in the company that my husband and I run,
Mhm.
we create content for publishers.
Mhm.
Okay, a lot of this. So when you talk about books, no, there is one which is factual, and then there is fiction. Okay, so in the factual, which is encyclopedic or information based, like the Discover India thing, there the creativity comes in after the research. In the sense, you think of a big idea, whatever your big ideas, because one of the things that we believe is that everything should have an idea. Because if you don't have an idea, it's dry and dull, and you're not going to get your interest.
Mhm.
So the factual based ones, if you ask about a process, no, that is very heavily research based. So for Discover India, for example, it was not only online research through very good sites, but we had also got people in different states. Wherever I could travel, I did, but obviously it's not possible to travel to every single corner. But everywhere one had local people from that place to fact check, to give me the local flavor of that area, etc. So that is research based. But the one that I enjoy and I'm doing a lot more of is the creative one, which is fiction based.
Mhm.
So my process is that, once as I said, crack the big idea. So for example, if I take the idea of dealing with feelings, so this one, I said, okay, how should we deal with the feelings? So I made a list of all the feelings that parents would like addressed.
Mhm.
We did some group discussions with mothers, saying that which are the topics that y'all would like, because you want to be sure that you get it right. It's just not something that I feel like doing. That's fine, but since I hope to achieve an objective with this series, uh, once that list of feelings was chosen, we had about 40 feelings. We eliminated out of those. And then I said, okay, what is the big idea in this? So I said, instead of having children, how about we do it through animals? So then I thought of an idea. I said, there's an imaginary forest called Foggy Forest in which these 10, 15 animals live. Okay, so we had Oof the snail, we had the dragon, we had a fox, and we had a raccoon, and we had a bear, and all of the characters were given a personality. Means I thought of a personality. So the zebra was always sad. Means she always Zizi the zebra was always thinking sad things.
Mhm.
Then there was the giraffe who was always jealous. His whole thing was that she has something, I don't have it. I can't do this, she can do this, or he can.
Mhm.
So it would be like, he can't fly. The giraffe feels that, that bird can fly and I can't fly, so I have nothing. So
Hmm.
this is for children to take away also, that, with children have this thing, he's got a better cycle than I have, or better skates than I have, or I want what he wants. And then finally the giraffe realizes something happens and realizes that he's the only one with a tall neck which could reach somewhere and solve a problem for all the animals. So the big idea was therefore having this place called Foggy Forest and having these animals in it. Uh, then I think the way everybody has different styles of writing.
Hmm.
Once I develop the character, I just start writing because I find that the character comes alive and the character does things
Hmm.
which I didn't expect and I didn't plan for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That the character might say something. So that's like a flow of consciousness, really. So I just allow myself to write. It's usually much longer than I want it to be. Then I edit it down
Hmm.
after that.
You somehow get into the mind space of that character.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. From that character, you go into that space
Hmm.
and you just start writing. At least that's the way I do it. Like I know a lot of people do a lot of handwritten notes,
Hmm.
and that doesn't work for me. For me, once I start writing,
Hmm.
I'm happy to rewrite 10 times, but it's only when I start writing that everything starts falling into place.
Yeah.
See, the other thing is with very young children, you have to consciously be aware of age appropriateness.
Yes.
So the number of words that they can comprehend at one go,
Hmm.
their staying power, how long they'll be able to actually see through the whole book, or will they lose interest?
Hmm.
These are all things that I have to keep in mind as I write. So, as I said, sometimes it's much longer and then one edits it down, but I just start writing, and then the story, I create a synopsis, of course. In the beginning, I create a rough synopsis, which tells me the context, the situation, the what the animals are all going to be doing. And then I just start writing. So research is a different kind of writing.
Hmm.
Fiction is a completely different kind of writing. So yeah, so that's really the process I follow.
Okay.
I also read a lot, so I make sure that I've read a fair amount of books, Indian and international ones,
Hmm.
in that particular age group, so that I see what is out there. I see what my grandkids are reading. I watch them reading also. So I
Hmm.
can observe to see what is it that, how long they can sit. And it's not just my grandkids, because I do a lot of workshops and a lot of sessions in schools and in book fairs, etc. I try and interact with children to see what is their staying power,
Hmm.
to see how long they have the ability to sit through a story. When do they get bored? When I'm reading a story, I can immediately see that that kid has started yawning. So you see
Yeah.
that child, that then I realize that maybe this is too long for them.
Hmm.
You know, so you have to be on all alert. I mean, thinking of all angles
Yes.
to do it, because children's writing is in some way harder
Hmm.
because they are so young, and
Hmm.
there's a big responsibility a children's author has, because in what you're writing, how it's going to influence them, what is the hidden message that they are taking away, which you may not even intend
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because kids can be so perceptive and like sometimes they not even sometimes like, they surprise you so much like with
100%.
what you thought they'll be thinking and what they actually were thinking and you feel oh okay like, you have to be very careful around them with what you are saying and what you're conveying. So Sonia, in your opinion, why is it important to inculcate reading habits in kids and what role do you think parents can play in this?
Okay, this is a huge topic of concern for
Yeah.
most parents,
Hmm.
and uh, so if you ask me why should people read, what is, so I think that there is, one is the joy of it, okay,
Hmm.
and the other is the benefits from it.
Hmm.
The joy of it is incalculable. I think that being able to read and having the ability to read. I mean, it's just like you can list a reasons of why it's such a joy. It's like, you can sit in one place and you read about, you enter a forest, you enter a snowy area, you go wherever you want in the world, all through a book. Uh, with a book, I literally feel like you have a best friend with you all the time, because if you enjoy books, you can never be bored. You can never be alone. You can never be, the confidence that you get because you have a book with you. It's like literally like a friend. So those are the joys of it, and the sheer entertainment. Benefit wise, I feel that one of the biggest things is that it gives you exposure to language. That's the first thing. It gives you exposure to different scenarios and different worldviews. Now, you could say that watching TV will also give you exposure. Of course, it will. I mean, you can watch lots of films and get that exposure. But there is what happens, in a book, you are also doing work. The writer has done the work and has put the words in front of you, but you are also doing the work in absorbing it. So it's a two-way thing, and what happens is that exercises your brain in a manner that just consuming TV content does not. TV content or the digital content is a one way. You're just receiving, you are not contributing to that experience. It's a one way thing. So what happens is that it actually builds your brain power, your the ability to read and to stay with it. It helps concentration. It helps the ability to sit with something for a long period of time, and that in life is going to be very important, because when you grow older, whether it's you have to sit through presentations, whether you have to sit through making a presentation, whether you have to sit through an examination, whether you have to just have the ability to see an task through, uh, being able to read a book from start to finish, being able to sit and finish that whole thing. This is like it's like, I give this example. I think of this very often. Like when you go to the gym, okay? If you have never gone to the gym, the first time you lift even 1 kilo is going to be difficult. Or the first time you do your basic workout is going to be difficult because your muscles have never been used. But by the time you have done it over a period of 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, your muscles have become better. So it'll become easier and easier. You'll start enjoying it. Reading is like that. So, and thinking also it sort of helps you think. So if you have never read, your mind will not be that flexible. Your mind will not have the ability to uh, uh, work and take in experiences which you are not physical experiences but imaginary experiences.
Yes.
Will not, it helps build your imagination skills. You asked, the second part of your question was that how do parents, what can
What role can they play in this? Yeah.
a very big role, a very, very big role. So I feel that, one of the things that, as we said earlier, children do by observation. So
Yes.
one of the things is when parents don't read, if there are no books in the house, if books are not a part of the family culture, chances are the child will not pick it up. Maybe there are instances of children because they have a natural curiosity, they have a natural interest, so they read a lot. But by and large, if the environment is supportive of reading, is encouraging of reading, the children will want to read and enjoy reading. So parents have that very big responsibility. Parents, grandparents, the caregivers, whoever they might be, of creating an environment which encourages reading. Okay. Now, how do you do that? Because all parents are not readers. So it's unfair to sort of put that pressure on them that if you don't read, your child won't read. It's not necessary like that. It helps, of course. But I feel that one of the things to do, and that effort the parent can take, is to fill the house with books,
Yeah.
to have books accessible to children, because when they are there, then you pull it. And then the other thing is, I find that having one, like a bedtime story to start with, as a habit, because that's the time when a child is very small, there's a bond that gets connected. The child is sleepy, vulnerable. So it creates a bond also, and it creates a habit also. You know, so I feel that this starting that bedtime story ritual is a very, very good starting point for starting them off on the journey of reading. As they grow, there are little things that you can do, and I can give you an example just now. Like, I have read Harry Potter when it first came out,
Yeah.
okay, years and years ago.
Mm.
Now my granddaughter's reading it, okay. Now I don't remember it at all. I just have, I'm beyond the main few, 5, 10 things. I can't remember it.
Mhm.
But I have gone back and read the whole thing again. Okay. The reason is because I want to be able to converse with her about it. And she gets excited knowing that Nani's also read it. So
Yeah.
she feels motivated to read the next.
Mm.
So her parents are doing the same. They make sure, like for example, they watch the Harry Potter movies together so that they can talk about it. So
Mm.
reading the same books as your child, so you
Mm.
get familiar with it and you can talk to them about it, is another way, is another technique I feel of getting the children onto that reading mindset and helping them. Like when my son was small, he didn't read. Okay,
Mm.
so we were quite concerned, oh, he has to read because both of us are very big readers and all.
Mm.
So we found that he's very interested in tennis and he's very interested in dogs. So
Okay.
we got a whole lot of books about tennis and about dogs.
Mm.
So you also try and follow their interest. You can't force them.
Yeah.
If you see that a child is interested in dragons or interested in trains or
Mm.
interested in cricket, whatever that child is interested in, you can buy books around that subject, and now
Yeah.
there is content and books around everything. I mean, everything for children. So you will be able to find books. So I feel that as long as a parent is aware, there are many things they can do to help
Mm.
this, and they definitely play a very, very critical role in getting the children into becoming readers.
Mm. That point is so interesting where you like you actually get them, like you find out what they're interested in, you find out the books related to them, and then because eventually then they will become a reader once they start reading that. Yeah.
They'll pick it up. They'll pick
Yeah.
up and get accustomed to the idea
Mm.
of, being with books.
Mm. Also, like parents play such an important role, as you're saying, because I remember as a child, books were the one thing, books and music, but yeah, books, like buying books was one thing. My parents never stopped me from doing. Like instead, they actually, they encouraged me that yeah, you can get this. Or I used to stand in the bookshop and like just read through it, and my like father used to pick it up and like buy it for me. And I think that is the reason which kind of got me interested into it. And then, somehow we're over here now, like discussing, like talking to authors and discussing
Maybe
about
what
more interesting books.
parents were like that.
Yeah, but I've seen people also around me whose parents, again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but they were more academically inclined, so they wanted their kids to be more into reading about the actual subjects and not about these
Not
uh,
about
yeah, and then those people, they also got into reading, but it was much later in their life. And I feel reading, when you started at an early age, it affects you in a completely different way than when you actually pick it up later on.
yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And I feel that, read anything, read a newspaper, read a comic book, read
Yeah.
anything.
Mm.
But that habit of being with a book is
Yes.
really important.
Mhm. Do you think reading can help a child escape the side effects of the digital era?
Like one of the things I've read somewhere, one psychologist has said that watching too much TV actually creates a sense of disturbance in a child.
Mm.
They get disturbed, they're overstimulated. Their ability to be calm gets disrupted. So I think reading is a perfect counter to it. It is one thing which is 100% good for you. I mean, today they say, that anything that's good for you is either illegal, fattening, or what?
Yeah.
Anything that's good for you is one of these three things.
Yes.
So, but reading is not that. Reading is 100% good for you. It's easily accessible. It's not
Mm.
expensive. it is everything that a screen is not, which
Yeah.
is, it is all the reasons that we spoke of. Because we'll just repeat them, but yeah, basically it's just the same reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a perfect antidote to. I see, because digital and screens now are a part of life.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to go anywhere. They're only going to increase.
Right.
Because our work will, like children, for example, today are already receiving homework on screens. They are
Mm.
doing submissions on screens. Assignments are on screen. They are making PowerPoint presentations as they grow older.
Mm.
So the screen as a medium of delivery
Mm.
is going to be there. There's no use fighting it.
Mm.
But what we should do is that the non-screen time, how do you use it? Because in any case, in school, you're going to be on screen. In any case, while doing your homework and all, you're going to be on screen.
Mm.
So for the rest of it, and as much as we are talking about books, but I feel free physical time, playing in the garden, cycling, just
Mm.
just playing with friends, catching cook, whatever, all those seven tiles, those kind of games, hide and seek, equally important.
Yes.
So, this is not, books are not the only thing. I mean,
Mm.
it's one of the very big things because it's a topic of our conversation.
Mm.
But otherwise, this importance of outdoor play, of just sport, just enjoying running around,
Mm.
building your physical stamina, all of that is equally important and an
Yeah.
equally strong antidote to the ill effects of of screens and digital technology.
So, on top of being an author, you are a successful entrepreneur in the field of developing content for children's books across age groups and genres. Being so deeply involved in this, creation and designing the content for children's education and entertainment. What are your thoughts on the education system that we have in place today? How do you think it has evolved over time, and how do you think that the curriculum could be made more engaging for the children?
So, as we know, we've got different boards,
Mm.
right? We have the ICSE, SSC, CBSE,
Yeah.
and now the IB,
Mm.
etc. Uh, what used to be a very heavily rote learning based method of study has, I think, over the years improved. Okay.
Mm.
I think the latest education policy, the national education policy, which has been, I think, come out last year,
Mhm.
places a lot of emphasis on learning through play. Okay, learning through doing. There's a lot more emphasis. So I think directionally it's in the right direction. Of course, there is many years of a certain education system that is there in all of us, that in our systems, that still has to be overcome in a way. But I think that the direction is right, because the new education policy, the national education policy, emphasizes
Mm.
that the whole objective, the whole methodology, especially in the younger age groups, should not be through rote learning. It should be through play. It should be through example. It should be through action. So this role of play is becoming very, very important. I still feel that we have a long way to go. Uh, I feel that our education should be more about application than about uh, internalizing knowledge.
Mm.
Okay. Which is where, like, for example, in some countries, you have an open book system, because the knowledge can come from anywhere. You don't need to mug up your dates anymore.
Right.
I don't need to know by heart when which mutiny was. It's not relevant anymore.
Mm.
What is important is the ability to apply it, the ability to know that because that happened, this is the reason that society is this way, because because of that situation in history, for example. So that, I think, still we have to still get there, but I think the direction is right. Like, for example, what is the need to mug up hundreds of chemical formulae? You don't need to know them, but you need to be able to apply them.
Mm.
So if our exam system also focuses increasingly on application rather than just information by heart,
Mm.
okay, I feel it will um, help it'll actually build a greater body of knowledge in children. The other thing which I think it is in the right direction, but a lot more needs to be done, is when we talk about education, we talk about it's a very unidimensional education, which is only academic subjects. But one of the big parts of life is communication. Okay, being able to communicate, being able to present yourself better, being able to conflict resolve, conflict resolution, social situations, all these are a part of education. So when we talk about education, typically we talk about Hindi, Marathi, math, science, uh, and English and geography and history and all that.
Yeah.
That is only one pillar of education.
Mm.
I feel the other pillars of education are confidence building, the ability for conflict resolution, being able to make your way in different social situations. This is all a part of education, and I feel that it's we do have challenges in India. Because the size of our country, the size of our population,
Yeah.
history that we have had, uh, the a simple thing like teachers' wages.
Mm.
Okay, if teachers are not paid better, how will we have better teachers? Today
Mm.
nobody will tell their child कि बड़े होके teacher बनो, because teachers are not being paid well, because
It's an underappreciated and overworked like occupation.
and so
Yeah.
therefore what happens is that the people who end up becoming teachers are the
Yeah.
housewives who find it a low hanging fruit to do.
Mm.
Not the, and I'm not saying everywhere, no, but I'm
Mm.
saying that you'll find that the schools that are paying good salaries to teachers are getting really good teachers,
Mm.
therefore they're getting really good students, therefore they're getting really good outcomes.
Mm.
So that is one aspect I feel of the whole education. But if you had to talk about the education itself, I think a more holistic approach to education, it is in the right direction,
Mm.
as I said, but it still has a long way to go.
So, so you were seeing this rise in new system of homeschooling and some unconventional schooling, and where the focus is again more on understanding the concepts deeply and focusing on the strengths and the likes of a child rather than on scoring in an exam. So I think it's more of a like what we talked before, that how the education system has to be changed. But again, like these new unconventional methods are also cropping up on the screen. So like, what are your thoughts on this?
Uh, See, I think that there is no one size fits all.
Hmm.
I know of parents whose children just could not do well in the school environment because
Yeah.
it became too competitive. There was too much peer pressure, and the social aspects that I was talking to you about just now.
Hmm.
They could not deal with that, and they just chose homeschooling, and they're perfectly happy with it. So because there's no peer pressure, you're just doing your thing.
Hmm.
But having said that, that may not work for every child. Some
Hmm.
children thrive in that competitive environment, some
Right.
children don't. So there is no one size fits all.
Hmm.
But I feel it's a good thing that so many options are coming up now.
Hmm. Hmm.
That unfortunately, these options are not available to everybody.
Yeah.
Is a little bit of a privilege, the people who can afford it.
Hmm.
So it is unfortunately not accessible. People are not even aware of it, I feel. But I think it's a good thing that these options are there, because it's not that everybody has to go through that same process.
Hmm.
It's not that everybody is cut out for it. Like, this may be controversial a little bit, but I know that children have deep fear of subjects like math. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's saying you can drop math after a certain age. Certain
Hmm.
schools are allowing that. I think that's very progressive because as long as you know your basic math,
Hmm.
aage jaake you don't know your algebra, you don't know your trigonometry,
Hmm.
it's okay. You
Yeah.
can be a wonderful artist, for example.
Yeah, because not everyone has to become a mathematician or a data scientist or something that requires, that knowledge.
And the other thing,
Yeah.
that a good thing that's happening is that there are so many unconventional careers that are popping
Hmm.
up now,
Hmm.
which you don't need this kind of heavy academic
Hmm.
input. You know, you
Right.
can be a very big success as a disc jockey, as a DJ,
Hmm.
and earn way more than if you had studied engineering for 5 years and then ended up in one job which you hate. So this is, I feel, in the right direction. This gig economy, as they call it,
Hmm.
it is there, and youngsters are getting onto that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the point that you mentioned that, okay, this thing is not cut out for everyone, but at least people are recognizing that not every kid will have the same needs.
Yeah,
They all have different kinds of needs, and maybe there must be more systems in place to take care of those needs.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So earlier we talked about your like process of working on children's book, and what your how do you research and stuff. This we again found very interesting in one of the books that we read. So it was the Sleepy Tale Times with Vicky Voyager, and in that we read the story Vicky Voyager and Cleopatra's Herb, and like I came across this mention of Cleopatra's cat's name, Diwali, and I literally I just stopped and googled it. Okay, like yeah, okay, this did exist. So, what is your research like process for such stories and such
Your
books?
series is one of my favorites actually,
Yeah.
because I wanted to do what we call academic learning,
Hmm.
but in a completely fun way.
Yeah.
Like this series was, I wanted to do history, a little bit of history, but it was not learning in any form, but it was like
Hmm.
giving them an exposure into what life must have been at that time.
Yeah.
So the process basically, I pick, I go through a series of, like in this case, it was the idea was that there's a time machine,
Hmm.
and the children get into the time machine and go into different eras, and they meet people from that era in history. So they go to Cleopatra, they go to
Hmm.
Alexander, right? And then they go to Jhansi Ki Rani.
Yes.
That they meet four or five different characters from history.
Yeah.
What happened is, first I said that, okay, let's just see which are the characters we want, some which are known, some which are unknown.
Hmm.
Then I did a little bit of biographical research on each character, okay,
Hmm.
through well-known sites
Hmm.
like history.com, for example, or National Geographic, or some of the bona fide Encyclopedia Britannica,
Hmm.
which I know have got valid and authentic information.
Yeah.
So I tried to find out personal information about any of these,
Hmm.
which I feel I could turn it into a story.
Hmm.
So, for Alexander had a horse which he loved,
Yeah.
uh, and she had this cat, and she was known to be very bad tempered, but she
Hmm.
was also known to be very, very clever.
Hmm.
Cleopatra, and she apparently used to make her own medicines, and she used to make her own herbs and grow her own herbs and all.
Yeah.
So I took that as a basic idea, but I do this basic research through. I have got about 8 to 10 sites that
Hmm.
I trust, and especially for historical stuff.
Hmm.
And I went to look for personal information on any of on these characters,
Hmm.
and from there I took a thread to build the story around it.
Okay. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. It was like I really enjoyed the book because apart from these little nuggets of information that you had given, it kind of also made me realize that it can develop a sense of adventure in kids because they are exploring new places
Yeah,
and then they are getting stuck in a certain situation, but they are not losing their calm and they're
yeah,
trying to get out of it.
yeah.
So yeah, wonderful. Uh, Another one of your amazing series, I think, which we have already like mentioned before, is dealing with feelings. And in that, you have touched upon some pretty important and complex feelings like anger, sadness, fear, jealousy, and like many more. And these are some very complex topics, as we say, and these emotions are something which we, even as adult, find difficult to deal with. Yeah. So, and we also have a movie like Inside Out, which dealt like brilliantly with this concept.
Yeah.
So, why do you think it is important for children to be aware about these feelings and, as you would say, learn to deal with these feelings? And how do you manage to keep such complex topics light enough for your young audience and, yet put your point across and convey your message?
So, you're right that these feelings are very complex,
Hmm.
and more so for children because they don't know how to literally deal with them.
Yeah.
I am going back to my experience with my grandchildren, because as a parent, no, I was a little oblivious.
Hmm.
As a parent, and in that era, you didn't think, we were very young, the children just grew up. But now as a grandparent and seeing my children also so much more aware of what is parenting all about.
Mm.
For us, it was intuitive. Now it's much more learned. So I see that, one of the frustrations that children go through when they start uh, talking is the ability to communicate what they are feeling.
Mm.
Okay, so they get angry because they can't communicate that.
Yeah.
That frustration of not being able to get their point across
Mm.
is what ends up in a temper tantrum, for example.
Mm.
It's not that they are being difficult, it's that they're frustrated.
Yeah.
It's like, I sometimes think that just imagine, and this had happened to me once. I had had a tooth removed,
Mm.
a wisdom tooth. So they had given me general anesthesia. And when I was coming out of general anesthesia, I was trying to say something, but I was obviously in a deep, I was still not out of the
Yeah. Yeah.
thing yet. I was getting so frustrated because it was clear in my head what I wanted to say, but it was not coming out the
So
way
yeah, yes.
I was very frustrated. So when I think of it like that, no, I
Mm.
say that these children, poor things, they're trying to communicate something.
Mm.
So how about we give them characters who are going through the same thing
Mm.
and find a way out of it? Okay. And in, like, for example, in dealing with feelings, it is I've tried to bring this theme of friendship also there, that uh, the friends around them are also helping them overcome this.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's this one which is this dragon is always scared. Okay, he's very scared. And I know children are scared of the dark. They're scared of whatever. So his friends come and say, "Listen, don't be scared." He said, "I'm sure there's a thief outside my house. I saw it. I saw him."
Mm.
So they come and stay with him. They said, "Listen, let's have a play date today. We'll all come and stay in your house and we'll see what this thief is about." Eventually, they realize that the thief is just actually the tree, which is waving and it looks like two arms.
Yeah.
It looks like two arms in the
Yeah.
shadow. So this dragon is getting scared of that, and they all have a good laugh. So the message that I want to bring across in this is that if you're scared,
Mm.
don't worry, talk to somebody about it
Mm.
and see what. In his case, they've talked to his friends, and his friends came to the thing. Talk to your parents,
Mm.
address it, and chances are that you'll find out that it's nothing. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, it's a simple story, but which has, so in all of them, there's a solution to it,
Mm.
which is usually it comes about with the friends helping out to help that person, that animal,
Mm.
overcome what he's feeling. And therefore, that animal feels it's all right. You can be scared, you can get angry, but when you get very angry and you throw a tantrum, this is the fallout. So
Mm.
there's another story about a goat who gets so angry all the time that he throws a fit and everything. So everybody decides that okay, we won't call him now the next time because he gets so upset. So then he realizes
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't make sense. So
Mm.
little stories, very simple ones. Uh, so the idea is that these children have to deal with all of this,
Mm.
and they're also going out into the world by themselves because for the first time they are on their own. They may go for
Mm.
a play date, they may go to somebody's house, or they go to birthday parties, and then they're on their own for maybe 1 hour. But for the first time in their lives, they're leaving their comfort zone and going out.
Yeah.
So they have things that they have to deal with. So that's what this particular series is, and that's the way I've tried to tackle it.
Yeah, because like adults can still at least they can have a logical thinking that okay, what I'm feeling, they can actually recognize that feeling. But for kids, it's everything is new, so it
Yeah.
gets even more difficult because they can't really pinpoint, okay, this is the issue that I am facing. And of course they're like so little, so impressionable, so it gets even more difficult for them to deal with these things. So but it's a wonderful wonderful work, seriously. um so, apart from your amazing, wonderful books, are there any other books that you would like to recommend for kids as well as for the adults?
Yeah, so for kids, depending on what age they are, I love all of Julia Donaldson's books.
Okay.
She's my favorite author. And her books are something that I would encourage everyone to read. All children and all parents to read out to their children. In terms of uh, stories for we have, now Kidlit is really taking off in a big way in India, and we have some wonderful Indian authors as well.
Mm.
For an older age group, I would tell I mean that this would be like 12 years plus. There is this whole 3 books that Rupa Pai has written on the Vedas, on the
That's interesting.
yeah, on the Gita. Like the Gita is a book which every child should read,
Yeah.
not the original Gita, but the way she has written it.
Mm.
And if there's any other way of simplifying it for children,
Mm.
it is something that I think is absolutely a must read for everyone. What else? I mean, for me, one book which is I've loved is Kabuliwala, and I loved it as a child, and I love it as an adult because I think there's something new in it every time. It's such a
Mm.
deeply sensitive book. It talks about so many human emotions. It talks
Yeah.
about so many, also socio-economic, cultural. It addresses so many things.
Mm.
So I think that's a book which I think children would benefit from reading. So these are just off the top of my head some books which I think are really must reads for children.
Those were some wonderful like recommendations, I feel, and I think our audience will definitely pick up some of those apart from your amazing books. So yeah. So thank you so much, Sonia. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and we really look forward to reading more of your works in future. And we want to wish you all the very best for your future projects. We really hope that you like this conversation.
I did. It was really good to talk about all these things which I feel are so important and to get out to people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.